Daniel was a successful businessman and popular with women. At the age of 25, model looks and passion were much more important to him, so he ended up marrying one of these beauties. At that time, he had no idea that over time his preferences would completely change. Having opened the second branch of his company, Daniel had been unable to find a good secretary for 6 months. And now, at the next interview, for the first time, he chose an older woman with sufficient work experience. Nancy was punctual, responsible in her attitude to tasks and deadlines, and the businessman was glad that now he had all his appointments and business under control. An important meeting was to take place in a few days, and for almost a week Daniel had been staying late at work. Today he planned to stay late too. "Late again? But you promised we'd go to the restaurant," cried his wife Caroline hysterically. "You have enough money, go yourself." "That's it, I have no time," said Daniel irritably and hung up. At that moment, Nancy looked into the office. "Mr. Bennet, all the reports are at your email. Do you no longer need me for the day?" "Thank you, Nancy. You can go home." Nancy was already at the door when she suddenly turned and said that she had ordered a dinner and coffee delivery for Daniel and his deputy. Michael, smiling, warmly thanked Nancy for her care, and Daniel only sighed heavily, remembering again about Caroline. He wanted so much for his wife to take care of him for once, but she was only interested in entertainment and shopping. Toward midnight, the men finished their business, but thanks to Nancy's foresight, they were not hungry. Upon arriving home and entering the apartment, Daniel could not believe his eyes. Caroline was asleep on the couch, drunk, and there were things scattered all over the apartment. The sink was full of dirty dishes, and on the table was a pile of packages from food deliveries from the restaurant. The husband was furious, but decided to postpone the showdown until tomorrow. In the morning, barely managing to wake Caroline up, he said everything he thought about her. But his wife was unperturbed and only rebuked her husband in response. "All you do is work all the time. You don't pay attention to me, and you don't give me any presents. By the way, darling, I'm out of money on my card." "How? I just transferred you a substantial sum yesterday," exclaimed Daniel indignantly. "But I had to eat something, and I bought a new dress." Turning to shrieking, shouted Caroline. "Well, no. If you want to live like this, then you should learn to earn money yourself," said Daniel angrily, and went to work, slamming the door shut behind him. There was a lot to do at work. Caroline kept calling and calling, and Daniel even had to turn off the sound to focus on work. "Mr. Bennet, you have a meeting in an hour," said Nancy as she peeked into her boss's office. "Also, your spouse is on the line asking for you. Should I connect you?" "No, tell her I'm busy. No matter how many times she calls today, I'm always busy or out for a meeting," replied Daniel tiredly and rubbed his eyes with his hand. "Okay, would you like some coffee?" asked Nancy sympathetically. Daniel nodded and went back to his business. So the day went on, and Daniel returned home. To his surprise, he found the same mess at home again. Earlier, Daniel had not paid any attention to it, as the housekeeper kept the house clean. But recently she had quit because of Caroline's constant nagging, and a new housekeeper had not yet been hired. The man tiredly sighed. "Caroline, you were home all day. Why didn't you clean here? And you could have cooked food for yourself like normal wives," he said, nodding at the packages from the delivery. "I'm not your housekeeper," shouted Caroline. Only now did Daniel notice that there was a suitcase next to his wife. "And anyway, you're allowing yourself too much. Until I hear an apology, I'm not coming home." Caroline grabbed the suitcase with her belongings, and with her head held up proudly, she rushed out of the house, clattering her heels. Daniel was so tired and angry that he didn't even try to stop her. He just took a shower and went to bed. The next few days, the man was busy at work with meetings, agreements and contracts. Caroline never came back, but Daniel was even happy about that. Nancy summoned specialists, and they cleaned up the boss's house in a short time. When the work schedule had fallen into its usual rhythm, Daniel realized for the first time that the past week had been the most comfortable he had had this year, and after thinking everything over, he called his lawyer and asked him to prepare the papers for the divorce. One day, for the first time, Daniel left the office with Nancy. It was pouring rain, and he offered her a ride home. They drove and talked about non-work related topics. He dropped her off at her house and, looking after her, suddenly thought that he wished he had such a caring and intelligent wife. The divorce with Caroline took several months. She tried to return, asking for forgiveness, but it was too late, because now Daniel was constantly thinking only about Nancy. He quickly found out that the woman was a widow and was raising 2 children alone. One day he made up his mind and invited her to a restaurant. Nancy refused, but instead asked him to dinner at her place. That's how he got to know her children. After hearing about the boss's feelings, the woman resisted for a long time. "Daniel, why do you need all this? I'm older than you and I have children." "It makes no difference to me," he insisted. Only a few months later, Nancy agreed to marry him. The wedding was quiet and modest, and a year later they had a child. Daniel never regretted his failed marriage to Caroline, because thanks to this, he could truly appreciate Nancy, and his mistake brought him real happiness.